Some clips don't just feel creepy, they make you question whether hidden technology and global secrets then way deeper than people realize. Today, we're getting into Antarctica, CERN, and 6G virus rabbit hole. Come on, man. This is Brosky Ray. Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
How crazy is that? You're relying on the wind to uncover the snow to give you enough food to sustain.
And then to sustain an animal that's that large. Like,
Yeah.
it's super windy all the time, too, because there's nothing to stop the wind. But that wind blows pretty fierce, and that wind's always moving the snow. So the snow's always there, but there would be like a lot of drifts, but it'll cause areas where there's maybe a hill to blow open. So that's what the muskox eat there.
How crazy is that? You're relying on the wind to uncover the snow to give you enough food to sustain.
And then to sustain an animal that's that large. Like,
yeah, well, that gives me hope for Bigfoot.
Yeah, exactly.
People say, what would they eat? Well, muskox live out in Antarctica.
Yep.
People are reporting that CERN turned back on. I just found some really interesting things. There's a kernel of truth that gets stretched. Particle collisions create conditions similar to the early universe. Physics talks about things like quantum fields, extra dimensions, virtual particles popping in and out of existence.
That's the definition of portal.
There's this one scientist that did talk about she saw like a ghostly apparition happening within the tube while it was happening. There was this viral video years ago of a ritual outside of CERN that turned out to be a staged prank by employees, not a real experiment or event.
That's crazy.
No, they were doing a ceremony in front of the god Shiva.
That's scary stuff.
CERN is creepy to me.
What if they end up being successful and then they create a universe inside of our Earth?
That's a true worry or fear that they could create a black hole
that we just get sucked into,
and that we would.
That seems like pretty instant.
I don't know.
We wouldn't feel it.
Maybe
it has to grow though.
Oh.
Or just
Slowly.
You know what? I think this is the result of creating a universe in our universe. Yeah?
I know I'm not the only one that recognized this. It seemed like every week we have a different virus. Now it's Ebola. We are still dealing with the virus from the ship. I started doing a little research and I realized that most of these outbreaks or viruses are coming from animals. But the real question is, when will this shit ever end? If you sit around and wait for that answer, you don't understand what's taking place. These are not outbreaks. They are tests. This video is about to get a little dark and a little deep. Stay with me. I know it's a lot of shit going on right now, but please don't forget what's going to take place 4 years from now. Agenda 2030. Oh, you never heard of this? Oh, you don't think these elites have plans for us? All you have to do is go and research Agenda 2030 and come back to this video. Everything is frequency and vibrations. Do you agree? What else is frequency and vibrations? Remember the 5G cell phone towers? A lot of people didn't make it when they brought out this technology, but they blamed it on something else. If you don't know by now, maybe you should, but the body is nothing but frequencies. That's why they gave warnings about never eating out of a microwave. It's frequencies, radiation. It can hurt you. That's why they say never sleep with your cell phone on the bed, especially while the Wi-Fi is playing. It's frequencies, radiations. It can hurt you. Understand how your body works. We are spiritual, energetic beings. So just think about this. If Wi-Fi can hurt you, just imagine what the 5G towers can do. It seemed like we were much more healthier when we were taking quarters and putting inside of payphones. Remember this? We shouldn't worry about the virus. We should worry about the radiation. Now everything is wired. That's why we feel weird. Look at the word wired and look at the word weird. We are not really sick. We are being poisoned. That's why so many people walk around acting weird. These people are really running tests on all of us. But it's not the 5G tower we should worry about, because Agenda 2030, something new is coming in. But remember this, before they give us their technology, they have to test it out on us to see how it works. In the year 2030, guess what? The 6G phone towers will be available for smart cities. Yes.
Yeah.
They are
Soon,
replacing
baby.
us. If they feel like you're kind of dumb, you will be replaced. I mean, they're already
Yo,
doing
it's all 5G now in Indonesia.
it. They have smartphones, smart TVs. Now they about to have smart cities. So, like, bye-bye
It's scary, man. 6G, 7G.
to the dumb people, right?
Yo, homeboy is right. You know, people acting weird. Hey, you heard about the power grid out in Antarctica? Yeah, it's time. It's time.
America is the military arm of this world power. England is the financial, and good old Vatican, that takes care of all the rest of the business, you know, big banking, big crime, the god business, you know, guns, oil, drugs, and sex. They do it all, people trafficking, the lot, and they've always been there. They've always been pirate families, and they have their own secret dealings, and they work out of Switzerland. Of course, Switzerland would be the crime capital of the earth, controlling all the banking. This is why you'll find that all of these families, they have all their wealth and all their money in Swiss banks, you see, because it's a neutral place where you don't get prosecuted and you don't get caught. You can go there, you can be an assassin, and you'll get
This is where
looked
the CERN is.
after by the elites. As long as you do what they want and as long as they get their money. These people are basically unconscious and they're animalistic. They're described as entities that are going downward, whereas the children of the sun are the ones that are going upward. The Elohim and the Nephilim, you know, up and down Jacob's ladder. Continual traffic of souls.
They all glow, but this one particularly glows a lot.
They
It's
all glow. You know what movie is that? It.
taken me some time as well to recognize, like, to your point,
They all flow. My bad.
what is that? What is going on? What is glowing? It basically has to do with the structure of the material and the trace elements that are inside the material. As I mentioned earlier, there's organic carbon in the pieces, in the matrix of the piece. So that organic carbon is actually what is glowing at a quantum level.
Have you heard of the story of the Kandahar giant? There was a giant that engaged U.S. troops in Kandahar, Afghanistan, in a very remote area. And this guy was shot and killed and helicoptered out of there. And there, 12-foot giant, Tim Alberino.
Was he telling the story as if he was there,
No.
or he heard this?
There's never a guy who was there. who
Damn
tells
it.
Yep, I got told a story when Platoon went into a cave, never came out. So they sent in a second platoon.
They are human-made laws, and then they are like higher laws. And like we think that we can control the lower world through all our knowledge. It's like, no, you're emitting a energy current constantly, and that is like creating your life 99.9% of the time.
Man, I have so many questions because like this is I love this stuff. Like I always tell my wife, like once I get to the point where I don't have to work, which I love working, I was like I would love to just study like how the universe actually works, because there's absolutely something to like energetics, vibrations, and it sounds so weird to people that like are not from that world or don't study that type of stuff, but like it is like this unwritten science of how things work, because it's like you'll see these traits or these commonalities between ultra successful people and like believing in this. When you say people live between worlds, or like the elite live between these different worlds, can you break that down just a little bit more, like for people that like are just like, what the hell does that mean? Like help them grasp that.
So, for example, I tell people, and it's one of the things we do in the group, we build a fourth dimensional template. So I've got two boys, they're 13. I can be driving them to school every day, right? I'm doing the things. I'm taking the dog out. I'm, helping clean the house, running my day-to-day business. But I've already created a fourth dimensional version of myself that's, let's say, reaching that goal or living in that actual end state of what I want to create. I'm already, living from that purpose, from that person all the time. So I'm between worlds. Consistently. And I find that, very often with people is they basically are doing one thing, but their consciousness, their awareness is in the state of that thing that they want already done. Already happened, already finished.
Within the Beyonce conversation, it was just this last year that her drummer of 7 years came and said that Beyonce was astral projecting to her and grooming her and even molested her in the spirit.
Oh my God.
She said that Beyonce, through spiritual witchcraft technology, actually killed her dog.
What?
Yep. And tried to file a restraining order against Beyonce based off of Beyonce not honoring her spiritual boundaries.
Former drummer of 7 Years, Kimberly Thompson, files a civil restraining order citing, quote, extreme witchcraft and supernatural harassment.
You know what? For Beyonce to have this power, she should have done extreme human sacrifices offered to fourth dimensional being.
When was the last time you saw John Travolta? And why do I ask that? Because John Travolta showed up in France at Cannes and was completely unrecognizable, leaving fans asking the question, what's going on with John Travolta? If you haven't seen the clip, take a look at this. Who is that in the clip?
Yep.
Is that John Travolta? Does that look like John Travolta? Is that
clone maybe?
The John Travolta that we're all used to seeing? This was an image of John Travolta not too long ago. So who is this John Travolta that was in the video? Take a look at these two side-by-side clips. This is John Travolta at age 68. John Travolta at 72. How is he age reversing?
Golly.
And John Travolta in the year 2018.
That's 72? He's 72? My goodness.
And John Travolta in the year 2026. So once again, the question needs to be asked. Has Hollywood claimed another celebrity? And once again, like I say in all my videos, I understand people can age and people can change. But these Hollywood celebrities are all not looking the same. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, the age reverse, bro.
According to the lore in Fatal Frame, Hiburo Mansion was in this incredibly isolated location, surrounded by forests so dense that very little light reached the ground. For generations, the Himuro family lived there in seclusion, not as caretakers of the land, but as caretakers of something far more dangerous. So beneath the mansion was what they called the Hellgate, a boundary between worlds, between this world and that of the dead. Every 50 years, that boundary would weaken even further. And when it did, the family believed only one thing could keep it sealed: a ritual. Some translations called it the strangling ritual. Others called it the
strangling ritual.
Rope Shrine Maiden ritual. Either way, it required a sacrifice. A girl would be chosen at birth, and she was called the Rope Shrine Maiden. She wouldn't be allowed to make friends or go to school. She would have no connection to the outside world, remaining in a hidden room in that mansion. And she would be put in this small, quiet space tucked away in the roof, where she would be completely isolated. And her entire life, she would be told one thing: you were born for this. Your purpose is to protect everyone. And for years, 15, sometimes 16 years, she would be prepared, conditioned to believe that this was normal. And she would be fed just enough to survive, taught prayers she wouldn't fully understand, told that her pain would be temporary, that her sacrifice would protect the family, the village, everyone.
Whoa.
The ritual required something very specific. She had to die without any emotional attachments, because if she felt even a flicker of emotion at the end, the seal wouldn't hold. The gate would crack, and whatever was on the other side would bleed through. And when the time came—
Sounds like MK Ultra to me.
The family would gather. They would dress in white ceremonial robes and lead the girl down to an enormous chamber deep beneath the mansion, carved into rock, lit only by candles. Now, at the center of this chamber was a stone platform, worn smooth by centuries of use. It was the rope altar, and around it, carved into the floor, was a circle. They were deep grooves, channels for drainage, stained dark with blood from past sacrifices. And they would ask the young Rope Shrine Maiden to ascend the platform. When they told her to extend her arms, she would comply, and the family would begin to prepare the robes.
Wow. Hey, don't you love her voice? I love her voice. Hypnotic.
This is what they don't want you to know about the big C. Listen.
Cancer is not a disease, it's a survival mechanism. So cancer is not trying to cancer is actually trying to save your life.
Really?
It's creating a tumor, a place for all those toxins to be so that they don't spread to other parts of the body. When you go to a doctor, the first thing they do is say, okay, well, let's take a biopsy. It's where they prick the tumor and they see if it was cancerous or not. Well, first of all, whether the tumor is cancerous or not, your passive treatment is still the same. So you don't actually need the biopsy. In fact, most people don't actually die from cancer. They die from the treatment of cancer.
Really?
Yes. And so when they take that biopsy, remember that we're dealing with healthcare. So there's no money to be made off healthy humans.
Right.
And so when they prick the tumor, they're opening it up and allowing the cancer cells and all the harmful toxins to now spread throughout the body. Now they do the biopsy, they come back, a little bit later and they say, okay, well now the cancer's spreading all throughout your body. So we're going to have
because of the prick.
Charge you more money and you're going to have to do more radiation, chemotherapy and all that, etc., which is crazy because Dr. Otto Warburg, who discovered cancer, he won the Nobel Prize for discovering cancer. He said, quote unquote, that no disease, including cancer. So this is any disease out there, any single disease, including cancer, can survive in a highly alkaline, highly oxygenated environment.
I'd love to know your thoughts on this. What do you think? Come and meet me in the caption, read that, and then let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, alkaline. I heard about that. Alkaline.
It's easy to be oblivious to the fact that, yeah, there is a bigger issue and we are susceptible to impacts. And interestingly, when you look at the record of the number of impacts, it almost seems that we've been in sort of a lull for the last century or two. If that's the case, we've got to reckon with the idea that there may be episodes or time periods where Earth is more susceptible to impacts, and therefore, as a consequence and a result, human civilization would be more susceptible to impacts. And there's a growing body of information and knowledge that suggests that some of the great failures of civilization that we see in the past, there are many examples now of civilizations that were prospering relatively, and then suddenly they're gone.
The Vector, NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's public affairs office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s. The time the logo was created. Not exactly the case. Someone might want to ask the Russian Federals, and while you're at it, you can ask the Chinese, who formed their space agency in 1996, why in the world they're using a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s as their official logo. Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts, getting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts actually flew into space because number 7 never did. Deke Slayton had a heart problem, so he didn't get to go up. So there were only 6 Mercury astronauts. Yet there's a 7 in every single logo. That's in the official mission.
By the way, I'm born on the 7th, October.
Or official program insignia for Mercury, as well as the 6 individual mission patches carry this logo. And it carries on to the space shuttle program. The Apollo logo. The Apollo logo has a big letter A in it. At least that's what they want you to believe, but it's not. Again, that's just a simple way of explaining away the inclusion of this vector symbology in the logo. If you go to the space shuttle program, the original space shuttle STS program patch is a triangular patch that, again, hides the use of the chevronic vector symbology. Every single one of the International Space Station expedition patches carry the vector symbology. The Russian Mir Space Station used the vector symbology. That was their official logo. Military industrial complex companies. Look at the logo on a company like Lockheed Martin. 2 vectors.
I apologize, but the audio is not me. It's the video, the clip.
the X Prize logo, Ames Research Labs, U.S. Space Command. When you get into the military realm, their official logo is the vector symbol. And when you look at the military's individual space-specific programs, all of them deal with vector symbology in their official insignias. And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage?
Fusion in the sun, that's well understood. It's only in the flares that you get fusion. There's no fusion in the sun. They don't know how the sun works. It's a transformer. Transforms from some other dimension. It's not burning anything. It doesn't have to. It's a converter. I don't know. Nobody knows. But that's what it does. That's the only thing it can do, because that's how everything works. It's taking energy from another dimension, counter space. There's no energy, actually. You can't see the sun in free space.
So the sun is not visible in outer space.
Not in free space. Well, when gross matter becomes involved, like the Earth's atmosphere and envelope and the surface of the moon, otherwise there is no light. You can see the moon, you can see the Earth, but you can't see the sun or you can't see the stars. You can see material objects, but you cannot see the sources of light. There is no light until there's a material object. It doesn't take light years. There are no light years because there's no light. So that means that the light you see from the distant stars isn't 4 million years old. Could be instantaneous. All the theories collapse when you can't see the stars in outer space.
I'm going to show you some more examples in media that they use subliminally to show what they've been up to. This one's from Friends.
Hi.
Hi.
One vegetarian pizza. It's $12.50.
Oh. By the way, if it makes you feel any better, I happen to like 8-year-old boys.
What?
Yo. Yeah, bro. It's everywhere.
That looks great. Thank you. What you want in a pancake is to have the consistency of young flesh. It's spongy as life is. And you got soft flesh in front of you.
Why does he have to say that? And how does he know what that is like? Yeah. Another one. Ready? You know the band Pink Floyd? The music video, Another Brick in the Wall. It shows a conveyor belt of children, and in the song itself, it's kids singing. Look at their faces. It looks like the mask that was in Epstein's dentist office, right? God. They fall into a conveyor belt, and what happens to them? No, don't tell me it's me. No! Yeah.
One of the fastest ways to kill your soul and even get cancer is not what you think. And by the end of this video, you'll find out exactly what this poison is. Carl Jung stated, quote, "Nothing is more poisonous to the nervous system than a disregarded or checked creative impulse. It even destroys people's organic health." Jungian analyst Marie-Louise von Franz corroborates this, stating, quote, "One of the most wicked destructive forces is unused creative power. If someone has a creative gift and out of laziness or for some other reason doesn't use it, the psychic energy turns to sheer poison. That's why we often diagnose neuroses and psychotic diseases as not lived higher possibilities." She also states, quote, "People who have a creative side and do not live it out are the most disagreeable clients. They make a mountain out of a molehill, fuss about unnecessary things, are too passionately in love with somebody who is not worth so much attention, and so on. There is a kind of floating charge of energy in them which is not attached to its right object and therefore tends to apply exaggerated dynamism to the wrong situation. This general idea of an unexpressed creative impulse manifesting as a misdirected internal energy charge aligns strikingly well with the findings in The Cancer Biopathy by Wilhelm Reich, who stated that the repressed holding back of emotions can manifest in blocked orgone energy in the body, which can literally lead to diseases like cancer. So next time you feel the urge to creatively express yourself, I highly recommend you find some way to do it. Now, this doesn't mean you have to immediately go all out and start creating content online. You can start small by honoring your insights in little ways, even just by bringing them up naturally in conversation. You will often find that people are nowhere near as judgmental as we make them out to be in our minds.
They were taking the humans down underground to save them from all of these massive destructive times on the planet by a species they call the ant beings, often called the ant people. They're not from here.
And people, come on, man.
They are interdimensional. The ant beings came out and brought them inside this massive cave system. It could hold well over 3 million people. And they have abilities we don't. There has been depictions of these ant people in all of these different countries, Turkey, Egypt, Australia. If they weren't real, how would they have the same structure and then the same look? Because
in another country around the whole globe, you have the same depiction of the same looking being.
Bullshit.
So you have 3 guys, 3 assassination attempts, and they're all on TV. What are the odds? There's a trend happening. So if you look at the first guy, Thomas Matthew Crook, he was on a BlackRock commercial. Ryan Routh, he was on Newsweek talking about, mercenaries, gaining mercenaries for Ukraine. This guy, Cole Allen, he was filmed a few years ago with ABC. And then mind you, that ABC clip where he was actually showing how he made some type of mechanism for wheelchairs and whatnot. At that event, JD Vance's wife was a speaker too, which is weird. At the same event. Yes, this is in 2017. Sorry. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like how are all these instances lining up and then these things happen.
What's the point for staging? Is it just to create more chaos?
Well, 2 things can be true. 1, it's a distraction. 2, what year is it? 2026, midterms. So every time you think about election time, midterms, you have to galvanize. You have to really get the people going.
Galvanize.
You have to start pulling in who you want in office, right? So all these things, the last assassination attempt, that was right before Trump got in office. So, that helps push that.
It's all staged by them. You know that, right?
Most mysterious whale. The 52 Hertz whale, also called the loneliest whale, what they presume is a whale because they actually don't know. One of the most fascinating and mysterious in marine biology. And at 52 Hertz, nothing can hear it.
Yeah.
So nothing can respond to it either. They've never been able to get a visual of it, but they've been listening to it for decades in the Pacific. They're doing military sonar scanning the ocean floor and they picked up on what sounded like a whale, but registering at 52 Hertz. And so they're like, what is this thing? They assume that maybe it's a hybrid whale, maybe a mix between a blue whale and a fin whale, which they apparently can interbreed, which is fascinating. What's crazy is that the migration patterns follow the whale's migration patterns.
Oh, that's cool.
There's no proof of it except for the 52 Hertz audio that they've recorded from the ocean. And it's just like deep, dark ocean where they're just getting this very high pitched whale noise.
Yeah.
What if it's like an alien ship though? I don't know.
Oh, whale.
What if it's the Leviathan?
Today I want to talk about something that ancient world understood about human body, that modern Western medicine has spent decades systematically ignoring. Parasites, organisms living inside the human system.
I just did a parasite detox like 3 weeks ago.
Feeding off its resources, disrupting its chemistry, altering its neurological function are not a problem exclusive to developing countries or poor sanitation. They are a near universal condition that most people in the West have never been tested for and never treated. Most Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Latin America, deworming is a routine practice. Every 6 to 8 months, the way you would service a car. Antiparasitic protocols are simply part of how people maintain their health. My own background comes with that understanding built in. It was not alternative medicine for us, it was just a medicine, The research increasingly shows.
You know what? After you do detoxing, like after that, 1 week, you feel weak. Like, because you put poison into your body to kill the parasites. I'm good now.
Is the parasitic load affects far more than the gut. Certain parasites cross the blood-brain barrier. Some are documented to alter mood, behavior, and even decision-making in their hosts. Toxoplasma gondii, one of the most widespread parasites on Earth, carried by roughly a third of the global population, has been linked in multiple studies to altered risk tolerance, impulsivity, and in some cases, psychiatric conditions. Esoteric traditions that spoke about entities feeding off human energy, the concept of energetic parasites in multiple shamanic and occult frameworks, were mapping something real in the language available to them. The physical and the energetic body are not separate systems. Fastin, black walnut hull, wormwood, clove. These are the traditional antiparasitic compounds that indigenous and folk medicine traditions across every culture independently arrived at. Now tell me, when did you last treat for parasites?
Do you think Vigeland Park in Norway
Good question.
is just an outdoor art space? Wake up. The sculptures showing intertwined bodies in agony, a giant pillar made of desperate human forms, and gateways loaded with occult symbolism are no artistic coincidence.
That's
It is the
right
cult
there.
signature. The elite uses this park as an energetic anchor for the low astral plane, normalizing the grotesque and the demonic in broad daylight so millions of tourists admire it without questioning. They program you to see beauty in oppression and the loss of the soul. Will you keep calling it culture, or will you understand you are walking through your captor's altar?
Those are parasites. Man, them statues are disgusting.
But that same pillar around the world, the same design, is where we find it all the way over in Lake Fawn. But not only that, there's a T pillar that's also exactly mimicked around the world as well. This like the idea of this T type of design that Robert Schock and I were just analyzing at Chavus Tepe with Hans. These huge basalt T's on the ground that we see in numerous other places like in Tiwanaku in Bolivia. But
who is the Pope? He is the Emperor of Rome. Rome never died, never faded away. It became the Vatican. What is the Vatican? It is the priesthood of all of the old pagan religions of Rome, built upon the deception that they are Christian. Can man change the orders of God? Can man elevate himself above God? No. Then why did the Pope change the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, the venerable day of the worship of the sun Osiris? Why in the outer courtyard of the Vatican is there a temple of the sun, an obelisk, and a reflecting pool built as a fountain around the base of the obelisk? Because what we're talking about in Dealey Plaza and in Washington, D.C. exists also in the Vatican. And I'm not trying to insult Catholics, I'm just trying to tell you the truth.
Rome never fell. It went underground and became the church and used religion to take over the world.
And why in Vatican there's a huge painting of Lucifer? Come on,
all
man.
The Anunnaki and Thoth and all that. They had 2 wars. The first Pyramid War almost eradicated them, but they started over again. The second Pyramid War, bad. That one almost decimated the planet. You see how when you look at Earth, like from Google Earth, you see a lot of those big deserts going across. People say, oh, that's just natural geological formations over time. This has become an arid desert. No, that's war. If you go to Egypt and stick your hand deep in the sands, eventually you're going to come up with balls of glass. How can you get glass and sand? 3,000 plus degree temperatures. You go to Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley. What are you going to see there? Dead bodies still in the streets from thousands of years ago, still holding hands, never been scavenged. The buildings that they lived in turned to glass. How can that be? We're talking about 3,000 plus degree temperature weapons fire. We're talking about this war that happened in the ancient past. Amun-Ra wanted to continue he started the first war to take over the earth early because he didn't want to wait for his processional period to rule. And then he started one war to take over early, which he won. Yeah. He then started a second war to stay in power. And in that second war, he escaped. He was almost killed, but he left his kingship and the finances of the kingdom to the Ra-Kam, and R-A-K-A-M. But that translates into modern words. Kam translates into childs. So now you translate Ra-Childs, Ra-Childs.
Rothschild. Amun-Ra is bad.
I see a pattern with Spielberg, Close Encounters, E.T., Disclosure Day. In the last few years, military people coming out, radar, pictures of craft doing things. One thing you know about governments, it lies to you. A group of pastors were brought together and were told to prepare for the revelations that were coming about reptilian beings. I've talked to many, many military whistleblowers. They've described reptilian beings in underground bases. Let's be streetwise here. They're not going to release information unless it suits them. So whatever they release this year, it will be for their benefit, not ours.
You know what? I want to see who's in charge when they make their appearance.
Adolf Hitler and his henchmen, people like Himmler and Goebbels, Rosenberg, were always talking about the fact that there was a 1,000-year Reich. They kept on using this term about a 1,000-year kingdom. Then we have George Bush later on talking about the 1,000 points of light. George Bush using the term New World Order, I think it was in 2000, on September 11th. And September 11th, 2000, was the first time ever that George Bush used the term we have to have a new world order. So these terms that are on the dollar bill, that are on flags, let's say in Zurich. In Zurich, you have the headquarters of the Illuminati, the headquarters of World Freemasonry is in Zurich, Switzerland. Over the door of that building is a term, Ordo ab Chaos, which means order out of chaos. That means that the plan of government is to always orchestrate, to engineer chaos in order to create the order, later on. Out of chaos comes the order the people demand. All the events that we see down through time, tribulations caused by government, have this as a central principle. Wars are connected to this.
It's from Egypt mythology. Order from chaos.
What struck me is that these old guys in oil portraits, these button-down three-piece suit gentlemen, unbeknownst
Freemasons,
them practicing ancient rituals that reach back to Atlantis.
Yeah, that's right.
So to my family that may think I'm a little nutty here in the 21st century, delving into these subjects, it's like, no, they were doing the family tradition to look into this stuff.
Yeah, Freemasonry was established by the Knights Templar, but it was based on the research that the Templar Order was doing. So after the order was suppressed, it had to survive in different forms. And one of the easiest forms they were able to disguise themselves as was as stonemasons.
In the Epstein files, he says in the files himself that he represents the Rockefellers.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So to say that you represent the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the 13 bloodlines, all these people, that means you're still working for them, right? So if you represent them, he's part of the Trilateral Commission, to where David Rockefeller actually founded that commission himself, invited Epstein into that faction. So that means you are being initiated. You are being included in their, nefarious activities. But definitely a fall guy when everything, falls apart.
I think two things can be true. I think he was a pawn, but he was a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
But he was definitely their spokesman. He was definitely their liaison. If the hit the fan, he's going down.
Yeah.
Not those 13 bloodlines. Like nobody even talk like they're still around.
Huwawa, sometimes called Humbaba, is a guardian figure from Mesopotamian mythology, especially in the Epic of Gilgamesh. He was set by the god Enlil to guard the cedar forest, a sacred realm where humans weren't meant to enter. His face was described as monstrous, often with intestines drawn across it like coils, a symbol of chaos and raw power. Esoterically, Huwawa represents the threshold between human ambition and divine boundary. Gilgamesh and Enkidu killed him not just to cut cedar trees, but to prove that mortals could challenge cosmic order. That act of killing Huwawa was more than slaying a monster. It was the beginning of humanity's rebellion against divine limits. In an occult lens, Huwawa is an archetype of the guardian at the gate. Every system has this figure. The Sphinx, the cherub with flaming sword, the dragon coiled around treasure. It embodies the resistance you meet when you're about to cross into forbidden knowledge. He's not just a demon, but a test. Can you face terror, illusion, and your own shadow without collapsing? In Hermetic and initiatory past, the slaying of Huwawa could be seen as the first misuse of power, crossing thresholds without reverence.
Huwawa is ugly.
Gilgamesh won the fight, but lost the harmony of divine law. That echoes today when we conquer nature, extract resources, or break ancient boundaries. We are reenacting the killing of Huwawa. So when you hear his name, don't only think about Mesopotamian boogeyman. Think of the guardian at the threshold, the boundary keeper. He asks, do you have the right to enter? Or are you just taken because you can?
I think we are in a highly advanced supercomputer. The conspiracies or coincidences, these things mathematically can't happen. Even going back to Cole Allen, the guy who tried to assassinate Trump, his name was tweeted 3 years ago on an account on X. One tweet. That's it.
Oh, the banner, right?
The banner, it was a frog, but it had a suit just like Trump.
Yeah.
And even in the banner that he used, it was from a screenshot from a website called timetravel.eu.
So that proves time travel exists.
They're alluding to it.
Holy.
Yeah. How was that guy 3 years ago? His name was tweeted on this X account, and the X account was Henry Martinez. And Henry Martinez was actually an employee of NASA. He worked with Lockheed Martin. And there's a document that came out related to NASA. At the same time that he was there, how was Cole Allen an intern at NASA?
That's wild. I didn't know he was an intern.
Yeah. So this person who tweeted this had a direct connection to Cole Allen.
I mean, when Tesla disappeared, they say he had the time travel documents taken, right?
Exactly. And Donald Trump's uncle took the papers.
How do you actually improve your psychic abilities? When I first tried to train clairvoyance, I didn't look for shortcuts, rituals, or anything dangerous. I went back to something ancient and surprisingly practical. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, a text older than most mystical systems we talk about online, there is a teaching that true psychic sight grows from 3 things: stillness, focus, and observation. So here's what I practice. For a few weeks, I trained my mind the way you train a muscle. Every day I would sit quietly, choose one thing to focus on, usually a candle, and keep my attention there without letting it drift. Not forcing visions, just teaching my mind to stay. Then comes the second part, awareness. I'd close my eyes and simply notice subtle images, random impressions, emotions that didn't feel like mine. Instead of believing or rejecting instantly, I wrote everything down. I compared it with real events, and that's when patterns slowly began to appear. The third part is grounding. You don't chase sensations. You don't dramatize. You stay normal, you live your life. Psychic perception grows when your nervous system feels safe. It isn't fantasy, and it doesn't happen instantly. It's training your mind to perceive more than it used to. So here's my question. If your intuition was already speaking, would you be able to recognize its voice?
Sounds like witchcraft to me.
You guys ever notice how eerily similar the alien abductions sound to the Nephilim origin story? So apparently, this information is being withheld from us from MUFON. And that is that if you call on the name of Jesus Christ, it ends the abductions. Now, as they were studying these abductions, again and again, this was coming up, that if a believer called on the name of Jesus Christ, it would end the abduction. So, extraterrestrials tremble at the name of Jesus. James 2:19 tells us that demons, fallen angels tremble at the name of Jesus. That's actually led many to believe that aliens and demons are one and the same. Now, what is really common in a lot of these alien abductions is sexual in nature. Many who talk about their experiences talk about how the aliens have talked about creating hybrids with them. Does that not sound eerily similar to the Watchers, the fallen angels mating with human women and creating the hybrids, the Nephilim? For just as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Ooh. The days of Noah before the flood is when the Nephilim existed. If you scroll down to my interesting facts part 5, I go into more detail about aliens actually being demons. Why do I bring this up? Many people are experiencing things, seeing things in the sky. And remember, in ancient times, the upper atmosphere, the sky, was the spiritual realm, and why people built ziggurats and pyramids to reach up to their gods. And so it is easy to be deceived by these beings. Remember, Satan comes as an angel of light. If you consider how similar these beings interacting with humans are to the story of the Nephilim and the fallen angels, then we as believers are able to protect ourselves in those moments if we should ever encounter them.
Finally, people are understanding this and are doing research.
Jeffrey Epstein somehow appeared in The Mouse movie, and it happened in a way you would never expect. The movie is Enchanted, released in 2007. It's as classic The Mouse. Everything about it says this was made for families and kids, especially young girls. But in the closing street shot, people noticed a bookstore sign in the background that appears to read, Epstein's Books. That's how Epstein appears in this The Mouse movie.
What?
Now, if the story ended there, you could still call it a coincidence. After all, Epstein is still just a last name, and it doesn't belong to only one person. But the really disturbing part isn't the sign itself. One of the co-producing companies behind Enchanted was Josephson Entertainment, and the man behind that company was Barry Josephson, who was also one of the film's producers. Because Barry Josephson's name also appears in publicly discussed Epstein-related emails and records, and these weren't casual social emails. In one set of emails from 2011, Barry first reaches out to Epstein about filming, locations, and travel, but very quickly, the conversation
Yo, bro, who is Epstein, man? He's in everything.
shifts toward young women. Epstein directly asks whether there are 20-something amazing women who would be willing to work as his assistant, and obviously
20? Come on, Epstein.
Assistant here doesn't sound like a normal assistant job, because Barry's replies after that basically tear away any remaining ambiguity. Barry replies, "For you, of course." Then he goes even further and asks whether Epstein wants someone only in New York or New York plus travel. Epstein's answer is even more direct.
I want them all.
Barry then says he has a girl, describing her in crude, sexualized terms as young, attractive, and discreet. At that point, the meaning is no longer subtle. Young women are being treated as resources to be sourced and delivered. When Epstein asks where she is, Barry says she has just finished filming in Los Angeles and offers to connect them directly. The most disturbing part isn't the sign anymore. It's that one of the producers of The Mouse movie aimed at children appears in these publicly discussed exchanges with Epstein. And the content is deeply unsettling. And that's exactly why, when you go back and look at the Epstein's books sign in the final scene of Enchanted, it becomes a lot harder to brush it off. If there were no producer credits, no emails, and no documented connections, then maybe this really would just be a coincidence. I only opened Edraw Max to make sense of the clues. By the end of it, I was left with one thought. This can't be a coincidence. 100%.
Harry Truman, who was president when the CIA was invented, right after JFK dies, and they were close. Harry Truman writes an op-ed basically saying the CIA needs to be disbanded or fundamentally reformed.
Whoa, all right, whoa! Harry Truman writes, limit CIA role to intelligence. For some time, I've been disturbed by the way CIA has been diverted from its original assignment. It has become an operational and at times a policy-making arm of the government. This has led to trouble and may have compounded our difficulties in several explosive areas. I never had any thought that when I set up the CIA that it would be injected into peacetime cloak and dagger operations. See it? But if that's the case, Stu, this is obviously pre-internet time. There's fucking 3 channels on TV. Look how they hid that headline. The headline should be all big font, size 72, President Harry Truman. Instead, they call him Harry Truman, and they make it really small and make the title small. And this is the same paper that's getting a lot of stories. Look, there it is. Look how small his name is right there. Limit CIA role to intelligence. And then in size fucking 11 font by Harry S. Truman. That's the Washington Post back then. This is programming. They're like, yo, we got a lot of sources in CIA. They're not going to like this. President's writing an op-ed. Well, let's stick him on page B6 and put his name real small like that. So it seems like it's just some regular asshole writing it. It's the fucking former president of the United States a month after a guy gets whacked in DC while he's in sitting office. Like, holy shit.
And we don't know. When I say we, like the American people, we don't know that the CIA is into all kinds of heavy cloak and dagger operations. Truman obviously does.
Hey, don't forget about Operation Mockingbird.
Every day I question why we don't ask more questions. Did you know that 48% of the lakes in America are man-made? Meaning they're absolutely not natural. Especially lakes like Lake Lanier that was built on top of a whole town. 56,000 acres. Have you ever seen 1 acre? That's pretty big. Oddly, about 10 fatal deaths happen in Lake Lanier every year. Could it be that the spirits are trying to take back control of their town? What I find even odder that there's actually buildings built on top of constructions of older buildings. Looking at the building beyond this building, looks like the bottom part was a part of a flood. Not only
What's up with that?
Is it in America, but it's also in Europe. A lot of buildings look like this underneath. Tell me you don't see a face. Could this be from one of the resets? But that's neither here nor there. I just find it odd that there used to be buildings like this and this that we were told were temporary and possibly created with something like this. But we still have plenty of buildings like this that can't be remade. So my question is, what took place in the old world to start a massive reset? That's if there was one. So odd of all the things that happened between the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And could all of these buildings actually be underground or submerged in these man-made lakes? This video was made only for entertainment purposes, so make sure to like and comment and let me know your thoughts.
The truth is coming out, sister. Matter of time, all will be revealed.
Yo, what the F? The news is actually saying right now that 4 different kinds of alien, even a 7-foot tall lizard alien. I mean, are y'all getting this? And just wait till I show you how all of this stuff connects. First, watch this.
We are not alone. The Pentagon released the UFO file. The War Department says more files will be released soon. UFO experts and top researchers have been investigating aliens for years. Their sources say dozens of crashed UFOs have been recovered, and what they found inside, shocking.
And do people think that there's one type of non-human intelligence that's visiting the Earth, or is there many, many types?
People who have been involved in recoveries have said
there are at least 4 separate types. Now, I have not had direct access to that, but I believe the people who I talked to.
4 different types of life.
4 different types of life.
4 different species of aliens. Another scientist called them Greys, Nordics, Insectoids, and Reptilians.
Did you see his eyes, by the way? Go back and watch again. Maybe he's one of those lizards, too. So it's 2026, and now they're talking about reptilians on the news. Now watch how insane this gets. So we have the 250th celebration coming up. Of course, the movie Independence Day shows the UFO over the White House. Remember the whole Illuminati card game? Church over Middle America. You remember the pastors just coming out like last week or 2 weeks ago? Which, by the way, if you follow me, you already knew that the pastors were going to do that because I've been telling you for 2 years about FEMA. Oh, look at this. And now Steven Spielberg is dropping that Disclosure movie or documentary coming out, I think, next month. We just had the upside down flag on the plate, 1776-2026, as if it's like the death date. Meanwhile, by the way, UFOs are showing up everywhere, and I even saw them in Florida 2 days ago. Look, I don't know exactly when this whole thing is going down. All I know is that this spiritual wickedness in high places hates the name Jesus. Remember that? You'll be golden. On the freaking news. Oh my goodness.
Hey, what about all the other so-called experts recently saying that there is 63 species of extraterrestrials?
They just found what under the ocean? Divers have just uncovered an ancient Egyptian city lying perfectly preserved underneath the sea. Alright then, sweet. What's next? Archaeologists have been exploring an ancient Egyptian settlement just off the coast of Alexandria. This area underwater has been hidden for over 2,000 years. And we're not talking about just a bit of rubble under the ground and maybe a few artifacts that can be found. No. Definitely not. We're talking about streets, buildings, ancient structures, artifacts that people would have touched and used every single day over 2,000 years ago. But here is the most insane part about this whole damn thing. The city didn't get buried under the sand and left in the desert. It's not something that couldn't be found. It literally vanished beneath the sea and is still there, preserved. Experts are saying that earthquakes and huge global shifts may have caused parts of these ancient cities to sink under the Mediterranean, almost like Atlantis as well, maybe that's here. And because, well, it's been sealed underwater for centuries, some of these discoveries are giving archaeologists details we've never seen before and didn't think we would ever see. Imagine what else is actually going to be down there. If I follow on, I'll keep you updated.
The Great Flood caused this. Even the Great Pyramids were once covered in water.
I believe today the most serious evil organization on the face of the earth is the Vatican. You're talking the Knights of Malta, which gave us the 6 men who founded the CIA in America, were all Catholics, members of the Knights of Malta.
What?
When you begin to look at the banking fraternities in America,
First
like
time hearing this.
Bank of America, Union Bank in California, all of these people who founded these banks and today are running the banking establishment are all Knights of Malta, Catholic Masonry. All the kings and rulers in Europe rule by the divine right. It's called the divine right of kings. What are you talking about? Who represents divine to give the king the right? The Pope. The Pope appoints certain families to be over the French. The Pope appoints certain people to be over the Germans and over the British. And so by divine right. Why? Because the Pope represents God. And the Pope says that this family is holy and that they should rule. And therefore, they could now say they rule by divine right.
Open the vaults. If you guys want to prove to the world that you're not evil, open the vaults. Let everyone see what you've been hiding. Or what you've not been hiding. Maybe you are truthful. Maybe you guys aren't as bad as everybody thinks. But I still want to see what you guys have hidden in those vaults.
Hope it's a scam. You know what? I think the CIA is the private security company of the Vatican.
The aliens come from underwater. The distraction is that the aliens are out of space. The whole space thing is NASA. Who owns NASA? Disney. Disney owns NASA, bro.
Disney owns NASA?
Disney
Really?
owns NASA.
I can Google this?
Yes. Disney was the first with the CGI, which is why the moon landing now look just like the moon landing from 60 years ago. It's the same equipment being used to create the same image. So they plan in our face because they give us a fucking moon landing, a trip excursion to the moon. How exciting. You look at this rocket ship. Aliens fly around in UFOs, discs, flying saucers. Why the hell are we in a rocket ship? And then why is the rocket ship look just like the last rocket ship? I show you a car from back then and show you a car now. That shit ain't gonna be the same. It ain't gonna look the same. I've been saying this since I was a teenager. The aliens come from underwater. Now there's real CIA agents and professionals coming out saying the same thing about the orbs coming out of water.
Tim Alberino.
Yeah, you know what? But NASA is owned by the U.S. government, not Disney. Come on,
Mother
man.
Gonzalez and L.A. Marzulli have in common. We all appeared on Tim Alberino's show and talked about the ongoing disclosure, which was released on May 8th. But this video is for entertainment purposes only. So Tim Mondo and I got together and we were pushing back against the prevailing narrative that seems to be growing every day, which is that the whole phenomena that we see is all demonic. That's way too simplistic of an answer. Something is going on here and it's extremely complex. There is technology. There is a physicality that's to it. And Mondo and I and Tim really drilled in on this, that there's a physicality to it. The craft are real. It is real nuts and bolts craft. It is not demonic delusion. This was taken from the Roswell debris site. You can see the piece of metal. It's an aluminum alloy, but it doesn't fit any known aluminum alloys. So it's not a weather balloon. And that's just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. I am L.A. Marzulli.
Yeah, man. Fallen angel technology. They can create physical crafts and architectures, etc.
Greek gods, the Egyptian gods, all of them, they're all fallen angels and no one can tell me different. No one. At this point, I'm really realizing that everything comes full circle because like the more I'm learning, the more just my mind is blown. So we have been talking about the Book of Enoch on this channel and we've mainly been focusing on the part about the fallen angels coming down, procreating with mortal women, those mortal women making an offspring of ravenous giants. And when God sent the flood, the fallen angels were punished, the Nephilim arrived in the sea and their disembodied spirits became demons, and the women were cursed to the seas, right? We covered that. Oh my gosh, wait a second. Before we get into the tea any farther, make sure you guys follow my YouTube. So we've covered that part, right? But what we haven't spoken a lot about is certain kinds of relations with animals.
What?
Yeah. So in the Book of Enoch, it actually says that the fallen angels did these things. And honestly, that kind of makes me feel like that's where it originated from, because y'all know some weirdos in this day and age still do that kind of thing. Anyway, so yeah, from this came half human and half animal creatures. Basically a mixing of DNA trying to create a whole new species. We've already covered on this channel that the Greek gods were actually fallen angels because in that time they brought down so much heavenly knowledge that the humans literally revered them as God. And those demigods that had a human parent and a heavenly parent were really the Nephilim and the other species that came about on the earth. Have y'all ever wondered where things like centaur and satyrs came from? Like, hello? It had to have come from somewhere, and Greek mythology is not the only place.
So you're saying that the gods effing animals?
comes about. The Egyptian gods as well have a habit of being half animal and half human. But staying on Greek mythology, let's not forget about sirens, which actually are not mermaids in Greek mythology. They are half human, half bird, specifically women. So are y'all seeing the pattern here? It's definitely giving that it was so rampant in this time. And that would make sense as to why God had to flood the earth, because it was just so corrupt. Then that makes you think, okay, God flooded the earth, so things drowned.
I like
right?
where she's going.
Right, everything drowned on the earth, but what about the things that lived in the sea? Like Siren, the mermaid kind. Throughout history, you can see so much proof of the existence of water spirit. For example, Mami Wata, which is a Caribbean and African water deity, has been around for as long as anyone can remember. That's because this all ties together, guys. It is so mind-blowing. Like, the deeper you get down the rabbit hole, you just never gonna leave. But I will tell you one thing, while you are digging, while you're learning more about the lore, make sure you don't get distracted and remember that the most important thing is Jesus. Don't do too much now. As always, y'all, make sure you like and follow and comment down below if y'all want me to dive into the connections within the Egyptian gods.
You know what? And the fact that Zeus slept with everyone, you know.
You may have noticed on his chest, Ptah wears an X. What is the purpose of that symbolism? None of the ancient Egyptian symbolism is there by chance. The teaching that that X points to is revealed in what are called the pyramid texts, which are discovered at a pyramid called the Pyramid of Unas at a place called Saqqara near the Giza Plateau. The entire Saqqara complex is devoted to Ptah, and it is devoted to the singular ambition that he has for humanity, which is that we will be able to resurrect and ascend from this realm and join the higher beings, the Star Walkers, in the afterlife realm and navigate the afterlife realm, even journeying to other worlds.
Some people believe that demons had with humans and they're the Nephilim.
Yeah, because of the book of Enoch, right? They get it from Enoch.
Yeah, we don't even know that the book of Enoch people are reading is the actual book of Enoch. Anyone could have wrote something and called it the book of Enoch in the 2nd century, and they go, ooh, oh, the book of Enoch. God says in Acts, he has created every nation from one blood. Demons don't have blood. You have to have blood in order to procreate. If you remember in the Gospels, the Sadducees, they don't believe in a resurrection anyway, but they came to the Lord and they said, look, if 10 husbands had one wife, when she goes to heaven, which one's her husband? You remember that parable? And Yeshua basically said, you're clueless. He says, you don't get married in heaven. You're like the angels. That means the angels don't procreate. There is no demonic nursery. There is no heavenly nursery. They don't procreate. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
The first thing you notice is that if you were an ancient civilization creating a structure like that, why would you make the head so small? It looks ridiculous. That's because it was not a pharaoh. It was a lion.
Doesn't the Sphinx face a specific constellation?
It faces Leo. That's the whole point of it being a lion. Yes. It only faces Leo during certain time periods in history because of what's called the precession of the equinox. Dr. Robert Schoch believes it's 12,000 years old. John Anthony West believes it's 38,000 years old because those are the only two dates that the Sphinx can align with Leo. 12,000 years ago was chaos on the earth. How could they possibly have built the pyramids of Egypt during that? What does that mean? It means that I believe 40,000 years ago, the greatest golden age that's ever emerged in our history began. We have an over 20,000 year period of human history in which we became the greatest masters we've ever been. And we were all destroyed. But before they were destroyed, they left all of their knowledge for us. All of it.
And they knew they were going to be destroyed.
And they knew they were all going to die.
Bob Lazar's like, I think that's exactly the craft that we were working on. There's this guy that had this UFO footage. Logan Paul offered to buy it for a lot of money. The guy's like, no way. Logan Paul's like, well, can I see it? Logan Paul secretly records it. He just released it on Jesse Michael's podcast because Logan Paul, just like me, saw the S4 documentary. Bob Lazar's describing this UFO. He goes out to the desert because he's like, I know when the UFO is going to fly. I saw the list of like the flight dates, and every time it was the disc, but it was at night, and like when it turns on, it glows glows orange. And they showed it on the S4 of like what Balthazar saw. So they recreated it. Logan Paul saw that. That's exactly the video I recorded.
No way.
And this UFO footage was apparently filmed in the Nevada desert outside of Area 51. Out of this craft, they took a device that would create the anti-gravity effect. And Bob Lazard's under the impression, he's like, everyone's talking about anti-gravity. He's like, I think it's a completely different force that no one has ever discovered or talked about.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Aliens are demons. This is why they flee by the name of Jesus Christ. Like that clip told you before.
Are y'all paying attention? Just listen.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true.
Facts matter, Senator.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracy theorists are up something like 37-0.
People create gods when they wonder why things happen. Do you know why things happen? Because gods make them happen. You want to know how good things happen? Be good to your God.
What if the AI has been around and were the gods?
Nope.
A lot of conspiracies do come from a lot of research, so you heard what the man said. And TikTok, these are just my thoughts and my conspiracies. But I gotta admit, it's pretty interesting to hear their perspective. But make sure to like and comment and let me know what you think.
AI is not God. AI is a fallen angels trying to give their self a forever body so they don't have to keep transmuting into compatible humans.
Made a video about parasite cleanse, and the reactions confirmed some of you genuinely need it. Because of that video, I have been called a spiritual community scammer. I am not in any spiritual community, and I call them out quite often on this very page. Go check. I have been accused of pushing anti-cat and anti-dog propaganda. Listen, I have been rescuing cats and dogs off the streets since I was 4 years old, alright? Bringing them home until my mom had enough of living in a rescue shelter. I adore animals with every part of me. The video contained the factual information about the health practice half the world does routinely. If that triggered you this badly, I recommend starting with the clove tea. Leave your projections somewhere else. I am here to share knowledge. If your parasites cannot handle it, my page will survive without you.
The Vatican.
Your parasite cannot handle it. Oh snap. I like that line. I'm going to use it.
Vatican Library has 53 miles of shelves. Only the Pope's chosen scholars are allowed inside. No journalists, no cameras, no exceptions. It was sealed completely from 1612 until 1881. Inside, the original transcript of Galileo's heresy trial. The 1308 Chinon parchment, proving the Pope secretly absolved the Knights Templar before sending them to the stake anyway. The Borgia family's private ledgers. Inquisition records on the Cathars. 12 centuries of documents no outside authority has ever audited. In 1980, the Vatican built a reinforced concrete bunker beneath the courtyard. In 2019, Pope Francis quietly renamed it, removed the word secret. The documents did not move. The access rules did not change. Only the name did. What is in that bunker that needed a new label after 400 years?
These are dragons, okay? This is the quintessential original dragon, okay? They were worms at first. They weren't dragons with feet and arms and eyebrows and tongues and all that crap. It was just worms in the sky, and they were squiggly. They were snakes. But more specifically, they were seraphim or serap or serpents, basically. And they squiggled down out of the sky. They were flying, fiery serpents. They came down. They grounded themselves to the earth. You know, some people got zapped by them and whatnot, but the sky opened up. Here it is again. You can see the frilly cloud at the top up here. I'll zoom in for you. A lot of symbolism. These angels and stuff, oftentimes this is, you know, plasma and stuff too. But here's the cloud. It's a dome. It's an inverted dome facing downwards towards us. Here it is again. Another alchemical drawing.
Man, I just saw that. Dragons were just sky worms.
This is the tree of life, or
Come
the
on,
arbor
man.
vitae. And directly above the Tree of Life, which is a pillar of plasma that comes up out of Mount Meru, we have the apex dome. This is what creates the stars. Okay? The light, there's plasma on the other side of the dome. Okay? Our whole world, there's plasma waiting to get in. It is spiraling around that dome above us. That dome protects us. That's a shield that's protecting us from constant electrical activity from above, from the power of the heavens. Okay?
Since 1314, there's been an unbroken lineage of underground movement of the Templar Order that has existed in different parts of the world, under different names at times, in order to survive. And this may surprise many people, because most people think that the Templar Order, after it got suppressed and Jacques de Molay was burnt at the stake in 1314, that he was the last Grand Master and that the Templar Order didn't exist anymore. But in fact, it has continued to exist. It's continued to pass on the same teachings and principles that it had from the beginning.
So it was actually aired on the news that people are hearing voices in their head? And even more so, these people think that for some reason they're targeted. We'll get to something completely unrelated in 1 second.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods.
Well, several viewers asked us to investigate what they call electronic harassment. KMIR 6's Angela Monroe joins us now with what she's discovered. Angela.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching...
Man, this is weird. Weird.
The internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several Valley residents who say they're victims.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain? It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
And of course, right now of all times, we have Luna and the Congress bring forth legislation or a hearing on MK Ultra. Which, by the way, I saw a video claiming that Voice to Skull was the future version of MK, and that's not true. I'll break it down in 1 second. But of course, we have this patent which literally combats the Voice to Skull patent. So obviously, it's true, otherwise there wouldn't be a patent, right? I wonder who would be beaming voices into these people's skull, right? Alright, so there's one main video, and it's the reason a lot of people are making videos saying that Voice to Skull is the future mode of MK. But that's not true at all. They're two completely different things. Because MK is a way that they induce trauma. They can use a TV screen or real life events and induce trauma to a person to then control the outcome of that person when they're in a certain mind state. Of course, they're not using the news and the TV in your living room to create these trauma-based mindsets. No way. So MK is trauma-induced actions. Voice to Skull is basically hypnosis on independent particular people, whichever one, whoever is doing this, chooses. Because they'll hear these words in their head so many times to the point where they think it's them and they think it's real, and then they will act on this. It's very similar, but it's totally not the same thing. Because what if I told you these both were going to be used in conjunction for this great massive deception? Fiction story here, of course. Trauma will be induced from the news and from the TV screens, make people act off emotions. And then when they see something in the sky, they'll have Voice to Skull and they'll believe that it's something very serious to them. But know this, if they are doing a hearing for something, that's because they actually want you to know it. Ask yourself why.
A group of independent researchers and archaeologists has just verified that the lost labyrinth under the Hawara Pyramid in Egypt does in fact exist. And they believe that the lost library of Atlantis may be located there. After hiring a company owned by former military specialist Tim Akers, known as Merlin Burroughs, they were able to use military-grade ground-penetrating radar to verify the labyrinth's existence. Mr. Akers used his military contacts to run the scans through military-grade software, which gave them much better and more accurate results. Something similar had been done back in 2008, but it wasn't verified by military-grade technology. So this left skepticism on the table, especially when it came to the former head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, who has long denied the labyrinth's existence. This, regardless of the numerous studies that have been done that have shown that something is under the Hawara Pyramid. But this time, it's undeniable The scans plunged into bedrock, unveiling a colossal complex of great halls at 40, 60, 80, and 100 meters deep, and even deeper. But unlike previous times, a revelation emerged. A central open space connecting several of these layers, like the atrium of a colossal shopping mall, where several floors converge in one grand central hall, consisting of a massive space, 64 meters wide and no less than 160 meters long. A 5-to-2 ratio temple chamber, followed by what appears to be a huge gate, leading to a cubic space of 80 by 80 meters at the heart of the complex. Doesn't stop there. The scans also provided imagery of another distinct feature, a clearly pronounced circular and, according to Tim, dome-shaped feature, situated some 40 meters below ground level, an underground rotunda, approximately matching the size of the Pantheon in Rome. This goes back to French scientist and Egyptologist Albert Schlossman's translations of the Egyptian Book of Death. Legends of a grand golden circular chamber, the Circle of Gold, deep beneath Hawara, where ancient priests inscribed mathematical prophecies in gold, warning of the cycles of cataclysms yet to come. Could this be the grand subterranean wonder whispered to be the lost Library of Atlantis, a relic of an Ice Age civilization that crumbled over 12,000 years ago? The only problem is access is thwarted due to it being flooded out by irrigation from nearby rice fields and a channel dug by French Freemason Linat de Bellefonds in 1830, builder of the Suez Canal. This flooded the site and caused a water barrier, and it's been unaddressed by Zahi Hawass and the Department of Antiquities. Seemed less neglect than a deliberate obstacle, guarding what might be humanity's greatest archive. A stone library holding the ancients' most vital message. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.
UFOs may not represent a new phenomenon at all.
Passport to Magonia by Jacques Vallée, where he really dives into the folklore, the mythology, how this has all been tied to something much deeper into our culture and our psychology, getting into fairies and what we believed our interactions with them were. There's so much, as you said, structural similarity to those experiences that were reported centuries and centuries ago to the structural similarities of a modern day UFO abduction.
They've been saying for a long time that, we found it in this mummy from thousands of years ago. And when I went and I looked at the study, it actually says in the study that they don't even know what bacteria it is. They say there's a 60% chance that it could be Borrelia, but it also maps to other reads that could be from other bacteria, so we don't know what bacteria it is. But then they go ahead and they promote it as though they definitely found it. And I think it's just part of the cover-up. Like, of course, they do this cover-up. This is part of their biodefense activities of things like all that stuff that went down during Paperclip. They don't want people to know about this stuff. And so they start these campaigns to, smear people who talk about it, and then also set up these studies to make it seem like it's been here all along. But when you really tear those studies apart, you find that they're promoting it as though they find it, but then when you go look, they didn't even find it.
I actually heard a woman say once that only divorced people have sleep paralysis because they sinned against God and got divorced. From my perspective, someone who's talked to hundreds and hundreds of people, I have talked to single people. I've talked to never been married people. I've been talked to married to their first spouses, never been divorced or remarried. I've talked to virgins. This isn't some sort of cosmic retaliation for your sexual sin.
Let's talk more about the...
My parents married for like over 50 years.
Ancient texts found amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls that didn't make it into the Bible we know today. While it's still in the Ethiopian Bible, it's not considered canon. A lot of people think that this book in particular was not put in the canon Bible, specifically withheld by the Vatican because it dives too deep into the spiritual realm. We're going to be talking about the Book of Giants. The pre-flood giants only appear briefly in our canon Bible, within a few cryptic lines. Ancient forbidden texts, their story is far more disturbing. Long before the flood, before recorded history as we know it, beings called the Watchers descended on Earth, according to the Book of Enoch, which I read as history, not scripture. They weren't meant to interfere with humanity, but they did, and they broke divine law by taking mortal women as their wives. Not only did they do that, they taught them forbidden knowledge, and from their union came something sinister. Giants, aka the Nephilim. This hidden story is preserved in a bunch of ancient texts, but specifically in this video we're speaking about the Book of Giants. This book was considered so unsettling, and for centuries it was deemed lost. The fragments were discovered amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls, held away in desert caves as if someone was trying to keep the contents buried. According to this text, the giants were violent, endlessly hungry, and uncontrollable. They consumed crops, livestock, and entire human populations, and when the hunger exceeded that, they turned on each other. Earth itself became corrupted, and unlike the canon Bible, this book actually uses names. Figures like Oya, Haya, and Mawe appear. I can't help but to notice the involvement of the word Yah, Yahweh, and then Mawe, Yahweh. Every time I read something about the enemy, it's so clear that he can imitate, but he cannot replicate. No one does it like Yahweh, okay? And that's a what? Biblical period. They just appear as symbols, but as thinking, speaking beings. Giants with personalities, fears, awareness, and then something changed. Giants started having dreams, and not ordinary dreams, but instead prophetic nightmares that were sent from the heaven. They had dreams of raging water flooding the earth and fire falling from the sky. Entire bloodlines erased, so they don't know what this destruction means, only that it's coming, and that it's meant for them, and because they had some sort of humanity, they went seeking answers. They sent messengers across the land desperately searching for someone that can interpret these dreams. Actually, they turned to the one man that is said to walk the closest to God. And that's Enoch. While yes, Enoch listens, his response is devastating to the giants. Dreams are real, the judgment is final, and the giants will not be spared. They're not going to have forgiveness because they were never meant to exist. Essentially, the coming flood wasn't just a punishment for humans, it was literally a cosmic reset, basically cleansing the earth of the corrupted hybrids made by the second heavenly rebellion. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like it just makes the day of the flood so much more chilling. Not only were there the screams of humans, they were the screams of the giants, and from what we're seeing in the Book of Giants, they were very aware. Just dumb idiots stomping around eating things. They had, like, actual consciousness. Anyway, y'all, as always, make sure you like and follow and comment down below if you want a part 3.
Please, please, I love her content. Part 3, coming up. There you go, folks. Thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. God bless. Please see the next video. Come on, man. Let's go.